For decades, Dolly Parton has been known as the queen of country music, the woman with the big voice, big heart, and even bigger hair. She's written more than 3,000 songs, sold millions of albums, and built an empire rooted in kindness and authenticity. But behind her glittering smile and rhinestone gowns, there was another story. A story even her most devoted fans never knew. For more than 30 years, Dolly Parton lived what some close to her now call a double life. On stage, she was America's sweetheart, a symbol of positivity, faith, and humor. But off stage, she carried secrets that she guarded fiercely, hidden beneath her warmth and laughter. Secrets about love, heartbreak, loss, and identity. Pieces of her life she refused to let the world see. Those who knew Dolly well say she was a master at separating Dolly the icon from Dolly the woman. Behind the cameras, she led a private existence filled with quiet routines, hidden struggles, and emotional scars. Few in the industry had any idea what was really happening in her personal life. Until recently, when the truth finally began to emerge through old interviews, letters, and the confessions of those closest to her. The real Dolly Parton is more complex than anyone ever imagined. A woman who fought to balance fame with privacy, faith with freedom, and public image with private truth. And what she managed to keep secret for over 30 years will change how you see her forever. This is the untold story of Dolly Parton's double life. The sacrifices, the secrecy, and the hidden heartache behind the smile that fooled the entire world. Dolly Parton's journey from a poor Tennessee girl to a global superstar is one of the most inspiring stories in music history. Born in a one-room cabin in the Smoky Mountains, she dreamed of stardom from the moment she could sing. With her dazzling charm, quick wit, and unmatched songwriting talent, she conquered Nashville in the 1960s, but success came with a heavy price. As Dolly's fame skyrocketed, so did the pressure to become an image, flawless, funny, and always on. Every smile, every word, every dress sparkled for the cameras. But behind that brilliance was a woman growing increasingly trapped by her own creation. She once confessed, "People see the hair, the makeup, and the jokes, but they don't see the woman who goes home crying at night." In her early years on The Porter Wagoner Show, Dolly began to build her public persona, bubbly, sweet, and endlessly positive. But even then, she struggled with exhaustion, overwork, and loneliness. She wanted to be taken seriously as a songwriter, yet her looks often drew more attention than her words. Off stage, she started withdrawing from people she couldn't trust. She learned early that fame came with whispers, and that privacy was the only thing she could control. By the 1970s, Dolly had carefully crafted two identities. There was Dolly Parton, the glamorous, outspoken entertainer adored by millions, and Dolly Rebecca Parton, the deeply private woman who preferred quiet mornings, handwritten letters, and long drives through Tennessee backroads. Even her close friends admitted that few ever saw the real her. Her double life wasn't about deceit. It was survival. Behind the glitz, Dolly battled health scares, creative burnout, and emotional wounds that she hid from everyone. She found comfort in writing songs that hinted at her inner turmoil, like Jolene, Coat of Many Colors, and Me and Little Andy. These weren't just stories. They were coded confessions, little windows into a heart she refused to expose fully. One close collaborator once said, "Dolly lived her truth in her songs, but not in her interviews." The public got the sparkle, the songs got the soul. As fame consumed her, Dolly became a master at balancing both lives. She built a home life far away from Hollywood, often escaping to her secluded property near Nashville, where she could live quietly, cook, write, and be herself. In public, she radiated confidence and laughter. In private, she faced depression and isolation. Struggles she later admitted nearly drove her to the edge. Her decision to keep things hidden wasn't just about herself. It was about protecting the people she loved. Dolly's marriage to Carl Dean, for instance, became one of the most mysterious relationships in show business. Fans rarely saw them together, and rumors swirled for decades. But those who knew the truth said Dolly wanted to preserve something pure, something untouched by fame. In interviews, she deflected questions with humor. "My husband and I have a great relationship, mainly because I leave him alone." But behind the jokes was a simple truth. Dolly was guarding her heart and her privacy in an industry that devoured both. By the time the 1980s arrived, she was living two separate lives seamlessly. On stage, she shined brighter than ever. Off stage, she became a ghost, disappearing from the public eye for weeks, sometimes months, to recover and reconnect with herself. It was a secret rhythm that defined her life for more than 30 years. The constant balancing act between the woman the world adored and the one she was desperately trying to protect. As Dolly Parton's fame soared in the late 1970s and 1980s, the world saw a woman who seemed to have it all: wealth, beauty, success, and an endless supply of positivity. But beneath the sparkle and laughter, Dolly was quietly battling some of the darkest years of her life. She later described this period as the time when the lights were brightest, but my heart was breaking. Dolly's double life began to take an emotional toll. While she was busy selling out arenas and starring in Hollywood films like 9 to 5 and The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, she was also privately struggling with exhaustion, anxiety, and loneliness. Behind the curtain, her health began to deteriorate. The demands of fame, touring, and constant scrutiny left her physically and emotionally drained. In 1982, Dolly suffered what she later revealed as a complete mental and physical breakdown. She collapsed in her dressing room during a show, overwhelmed by stress and fatigue. For years, she kept this incident secret, fearing that the truth might destroy the image she had worked so hard to build. She told only a few close friends and quietly took time off to recover, away from cameras, away from crowds, and away from the world. But it wasn't just the pressures of fame that haunted her. Dolly was also enduring deep personal heartbreak. Rumors swirled about her marriage to Carl Dean, her reclusive husband whom few people ever saw. The couple had been married since 1966, but Dolly once admitted, "We've spent more time apart than together." Their unusual relationship, fiercely private and far removed from Hollywood, only added to the speculation. Some claimed it wasn't real. Others suggested secret affairs. Dolly, however, refused to let the world see her pain. Instead, she buried it in her music. Songs like Heartbreaker, It's All Wrong But It's All Right, and Hard Candy Christmas weren't just chart hits. They were windows into her inner life. Every lyric hinted at the heartbreak she was too guarded to discuss openly. She also dealt with another painful chapter she rarely mentioned, her struggle with infertility. Dolly had always dreamed of being a mother, but health complications made that impossible. It was one of the deepest wounds of her life, one that she hid from the world for decades. "God didn't let me have children," she once said softly, "so that everyone's children could be mine." That pain became part of her drive, to nurture others through her songs, her charity, and her signature warmth. Friends say this period was when Dolly's double life truly took hold. In public, she was radiant, always joking, always cheerful, never admitting how much she was suffering. In private, she retreated into solitude, pouring her emotions into notebooks and songwriting sessions late into the night. One longtime band member recalled, "Sometimes we'd find her sitting alone after a show, just staring at her guitar. You could tell she was carrying something heavy, but she never talked about it. Through it all, Dolly clung to her faith. She prayed daily and wrote gospel songs that reflected her inner turmoil and her determination to survive. Her faith," she later said, "was the only thing that kept me from falling apart completely." By the late 1980s, she had mastered the art of masking pain with humor. The wigs got higher, the jokes got funnier, and the smile never wavered. But the truth was, Dolly had learned to wear her happiness like... For nearly 30 years, she lived that way, balancing her light and her darkness, hiding her pain behind rhinestones and laughter. Only later in life would she begin to reveal glimpses of what she endured, finally allowing the world to see the cracks beneath the glitter. By the early 1990s, Dolly Parton had survived the emotional storms that nearly destroyed her. To the world, she seemed unstoppable, a living legend who had conquered every obstacle with grace and humor. But what no one realized was that behind her iconic smile, Dolly had quietly begun living a very different kind of life. Away from the flashing lights, she had built a private world of faith, healing, and giving, one that few outsiders ever saw. This was the second half of her double life, a life guided not by fame, but by purpose. While the public saw Dolly the superstar, those close to her knew another Dolly, one who spent sleepless nights praying for strength, one who gave away millions anonymously, and one who quietly rebuilt her soul through compassion. After her breakdown and years of personal struggle, Dolly turned deeply to her Christian faith. It became her anchor. She began starting each morning in prayer, reading scripture before ever picking up her phone or guitar. She once said, "Before I put on my wig and makeup, I talk to God, because He's the one who gets me ready to face the world." Her faith wasn't about publicity. It was personal, even secretive. Many of her closest acts of generosity were done quietly. Over the years, Dolly gave enormous sums to people in need, paying hospital bills for sick fans, funding children's education, and supporting struggling musicians, all without revealing her name. A longtime assistant later said, "If people knew how much Dolly gave away, they'd think she was crazy." She never wanted credit. She just wanted to help. One of her proudest but most private missions began in the late 1980s when she created the Imagination Library, a charity that sends free books to children. Few people realized at the time that Dolly funded much of it herself during its early years, even when critics called it unrealistic. Today, that same program has given away over 200 million books. But when it started, it was simply Dolly's way of helping kids who, like her younger self, had little more than dreams. She also maintained a hidden spiritual discipline that few people outside her circle knew about. She would retreat to her Tennessee property, her mountain hideaway, where she would spend days alone, meditating, writing, and reconnecting with God. She called it her soul time. In those quiet moments, she found healing from years of heartbreak and exhaustion. Yet, even as she lived this deeply spiritual private life, Dolly never let the world see the depth of her struggles or her faith. Her reason was simple. She didn't want pity or judgment. She wanted to remain the bright light fans turned to for comfort. "People don't need my sadness," she once said. "They need my songs." That's why when she returned to the spotlight in the 1990s, she did it with a radiant new energy. She reinvented herself not just musically, but emotionally. Every performance, every interview carried a peace and wisdom she had earned in secret. Her double life wasn't a burden anymore. It had become her strength. Dolly had learned to keep the world at arm's length while still giving it everything she had. She had learned that privacy was not hiding, it was survival. To this day, many fans are unaware of how deep Dolly's compassion runs, or how her faith quietly shaped everything she did. But those who've seen both sides, the dazzling entertainer and the humble servant, say they are inseparable. As one longtime friend put it, Dolly's not two different people. She's one woman trying to live in two worlds, the world of fame and the world of faith. And somehow she's managed to do both with grace. By the late 2000s, Dolly Parton had become more than a country legend. She was an icon of American culture. Yet even after decades in the spotlight, fans still felt there was something about her they didn't fully know. She was warm and open, yes, but there was a quiet depth behind her humor, a sense that she carried secrets far heavier than her rhinestones suggested. For years, rumors had swirled about Dolly's double life. Some tabloids painted wild stories, secret affairs, hidden health battles, even claims she had a secret child. Most of it was nonsense. But what was true, and what Dolly finally began to reveal, was far more profound. She had indeed lived two lives, but not in the scandalous way people imagined. There was the Dolly Parton the world adored, the entertainer who sparkled under stage lights, her laughter echoing through every late-night talk show. And then there was the other Dolly, the private woman who retreated to her cabin in the Smoky Mountains, who prayed alone by candlelight, who fought through depression, and who quietly healed from the emotional scars of fame. In interviews during her later years, Dolly began to drop gentle hints about this hidden side. When asked about her longevity in show business, she smiled and said, "You gotta have a private world that's yours alone. If you give it all away, there's nothing left to sing about." Fans didn't realize it then, but that statement was her truth laid bare. Dolly's survival, through heartbreak, overwork, illness, and the relentless spotlight, depended on the balance between her two worlds. She didn't hide her double life to deceive anyone. She hid it to stay alive. Close friends say the turning point came around her 70th birthday. She had been through enough. The loss of friends, the fading of youth, the endless expectations of perfection. Dolly decided she didn't want to spend her twilight years pretending to be invincible. So, slowly, she began opening up. She revealed that she had suffered from serious health issues over the years, including struggles with her back and heart, which she had quietly managed while touring and performing. She confessed that there were nights she cried herself to sleep from exhaustion, praying to God for strength to face another crowd. But her confessions weren't meant to shock. They were meant to inspire. She wanted people to understand that even the brightest stars have their shadows. "People see me smiling," she once said, "but sometimes I've had to smile through tears. The good Lord gives me strength, but I'm still human." She also spoke about her lifelong bond with her husband, Carl Dean, a man who has almost never appeared in public. Many people speculated about their marriage, but Dolly finally revealed that his absence was part of what kept their relationship alive. "He's my grounding," she explained. "He didn't marry Dolly Parton, the star. He married Dolly from Sevier County, and that's the woman he still has." In her later years, Dolly has become increasingly open about her life's paradoxes. She laughs about her wigs and her surgeries, but never hides her humanity. She's proud of her imperfections. They're part of her story. And now, as she stands as one of the most beloved figures in entertainment history, the truth about her double life doesn't seem scandalous anymore. It seems heroic. She lived in two worlds and mastered both. She became proof that fame doesn't have to destroy you if you hold on to your faith, your humility, and your roots. When asked recently if she has any regrets, Dolly simply smiled and said, "Not a one. Every heartache, every secret, every song, it all made me who I am. And I like who I am." It's a fitting ending to a story that was never really about hiding. It was about survival, strength, and staying true to herself. Because behind the glitz and glitter, the wigs and the laughter, Dolly Parton's greatest performance was not on stage. It was the act of living authentically, even when the world expected her to be someone else.